Helen, and I'm a Year 13 student here at West Island School, and I'm going to talk about our Precocious insecurity. Sorry about the slightly pretentious title, but it's the only way I can think of describing the concept that I want to talk about. So what I'm trying to talk about today is the premature development of adult insecurities in adolescence, specifically the development of imposter syndrome in high school students. So, imposter syndrome, before I define it, I'm first going to go through a checklist with you all to see if you too suffer from imposter syndrome. So, 1, do you feel like you deserve your success? 2, do you crave acknowledgement and praise, but feel uncomfortable when you receive it? 3, are you unable to accept your accomplishments? And 4, are you unable to internalize your success? If you answered yes to one or more of these, it's likely that you've experienced imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome was a term coined in 1978 by the clinical psychologist Clance and Imes, and they defined it as a collection of feelings of inadequacy that, despite evidence to the contrary, people are unable to accept their success. So people who suffer from this, they experience it internally as chronic self-doubt and feelings of intellectual fraudulence. So for the people who experience this, they find themselves unable to accept their success, instead choosing to attribute it to luck or timing or other situational factors. And they also believe that they are deceiving people into believing that they're more intelligent than they actually are. So in terms of how common it is, it's seen in about 70% or more of people, at least once in their lives. And this study was conducted on high-achieving professional women, and it was then extended to men. And my hypothesis, which is what I'll be talking about today, is that it's now been extended to high school students, that we also experience it. And this comes about from seeing it in my peers and also experiencing it myself. So what I first wanted to do is conduct an interview using 4 high-achieving students in my year and sort of provide some qualitative evidence for this claim. So let's see if that works.
From my parents and my sister, I don't think I'm very academically successful. A lot of it is support from my parents. They're like, wow, great job, Mom. My friend group, I think, I always feel some type of pressure to do better. Maybe my parents pushing me. I just took advantage of all the opportunities I was given. Not book-wise, family-wise, they tell me, you can't do this, you can't do that. I've kind of like conditioned myself to know that I'm not going to be smart. No, I just don't. I know other people who are more intelligent than I am. That's why I think I'm not. The smart person wouldn't call themselves smart. I will never reach the intelligence level that I want to reach, but I'm also okay with that. Yes. No. Maybe 3 out of 5 I probably deserve. I guess it's not. Yes, I guess. No. I think we made a mistake. There are so many other qualified students. Yes.
Okay, so in the first question, which was in there, I talked about what they felt was responsible for their academic success, and it was seen that they all attributed it to outside factors or other people, which is symptomatic of imposter syndrome. In the second question about intelligence, only 50% of them chose to believe that they were intelligent, and the rest of them thought that they weren't because of comparisons to others. And the third question, talking about success in university offers, only 50% of people thought that they deserved it. So I knew that this was quite a small sample size, of only 4 people, which couldn't really be generalized much wider, so I then wanted to go on to create a questionnaire that sort of widened the scope. So I then took a larger group of Year 13 high-achieving students and asked them a number of questions. So the first one of these was rate your intelligence from 1 to 10, and this ended up with a mean of 5.71. Considering that these were all high achievers that easily scored in the top 20% of all students, it still is relatively low. And within this, there was quite a large range, ranging from as low as 2 to up to confident 10. I then asked them, are you confident in your abilities? And it was seen that only 5% of them said that they were, whereas 60% said that they were wholly unconfident in themselves, whereas 35% said sometimes. So this isn't great because confidence is often predictors of your workplace performance and your student performance, and also is a major factor in determining your happiness. I then asked them if they feared failure, and an overwhelming 90% said that they did. So this also isn't great because a fear of failure can often prevent people from taking risks and therefore prevent them from achieving to their best. I then asked, have you ever considered yourself not deserving of your accomplishments? Which again, 90% of people said that they weren't. And showing that this is basically the definition of imposter syndrome. So it was a clear example of people who suffer from it. And in terms of the consequences of this, it's if imposter syndrome is seen at a younger age, it means that we already view ourselves as inadequate, whereas previously it was seen in well-established professional people. It's now being seen in younger students who haven't really achieved or accomplished anything real, in a sense, in the real world. And so from it being in such a young age, it prevents us from even starting upon the path for success because we're just too afraid and believe that we're not worth it. So for the source of imposter syndrome, traditionally it's thought that it comes from parental overprotection, and it's also seen as a rite of passage in a sense as you climb the career ladder. But neither of these really explain the increased rates in high school students because we haven't even begun on the first rung of the career ladder, so it doesn't really make sense that it would be a rite of passage, so there clearly has to be another explanation. So in terms of what I think the explanations for this is, I think the largest one is that our ease of comparison with others has increased. In terms of the scope for competition has now widened so much that to the point I can type in amazing 12-year-old onto Google and see someone who's probably cured cancer and can play the piano really well as well. So because of this, it's no doubt that we feel inadequate because it's so easy to find someone who's better than us, whereas previously you were limited to a much smaller social circle. Another explanation, I would say, is the increased competitiveness for universities, and from this, the increasing early pressures to succeed in academic life. So each year it gets more and more competitive to get into the best universities, and because of this, earlier and earlier we're told to start making decisions about our future. So as early as year 9, we're told that we have to pick the right GCSEs so we can go to the right IB course so that we can get into the best university, so we can get the best job. And it forces an adult way of thinking onto young children by forcing them to think about their future. So from this, it's no surprise really that we take on these adult insecurities so young. Another factor, I think, is technology. In terms of technology is constantly increasing at an exponential rate, and because of this, it's impossible to really see ourselves as experts because what it means to be an expert is constantly getting harder and harder to achieve. Finally, I think that culture can also play a role because the culture that we're in does somewhat have a modesty bias in that we believe that we are not supposed to own our success and own our own intelligence. Especially in women, we're constantly told that we're supposed to be modest. So then this also is responsible for the higher things. So solutions. In terms of solutions, you've all already taken the first step, which is becoming aware of it. And from becoming aware of it, this, in a sense, destigmatizes the experience because it shows you that it's a very common, natural part of human experience. And so as soon as you become aware of it, it brings this almost unconscious behavior into the light and allows you to actively make decisions to not suffer from it, in terms of whenever you see yourself suffering from a symptom of imposter syndrome, you're able to recognize it and therefore stop yourself by forcing yourself, in a sense, to own your success, own your intelligence, and by just telling yourself. And if you just keep repeating to yourself over and over that you are intelligent and that you do deserve your success, one day you will believe it. Another thing would be to understand why we have these feelings. So imposter syndrome does have an evolutionary basis in that it prevents us from taking unnecessary risks, and it also forces us to work a lot harder. So I guess if we understand this, it does prevent us from sort of making it seem more scary. Finally, the last solution would be to stop comparing yourself constantly to others, because at the end of the day, you're looking at their lives through a subjective lens, and that means you're never really going to be able to experience their reality, and therefore you shouldn't really be comparing yourself to them. In this sense, in terms of social media, people always place a cultivated version of themselves on there that is the best version of themselves, so really you can't compare yourself to something that in its essence isn't a real person. So overall, imposter syndrome, it is increasing in high school students, but it doesn't have to be a problem, because if we catch it earlier, that means we won't suffer real consequences from it, because we're still children in a sense. So by becoming consciously aware of it, we'll be able to overcome it through education. And so hopefully people in the audience who relate to this, and anyone else who's watching, I guess, this can be the first step in becoming aware of it and being able to overcome it, and therefore be able to accept and deserve the success that you will work hard for. Thank you.